Joining me now to talk about this is Congressman Denny Heck, Democrat from Washington. Congressman, it's good to have you. Take me through when you made this decision and why.
Probably over Thanksgiving holidays when I had a chance
recently.
Yeah, I think it probably had been coming for a while, but you asked when the decision was made, and I got a chance to get some rest and do some heavy-duty reflection and came to that conclusion. But again, it's probably been coming for a while. I mean, after all, week after week, month after month, we've been sitting there subjected to some of the behaviors that you described from or quoted from my letter, Chris. It's an awful lot of abrasion to the spirit and to the soul to sit there and have to observe it daily. It's very saddening.
Expound on that. I mean, are these people, I always wonder about the human aspect of being in that room, because we all have workplaces, we all have coworkers, we have relationships. Sometimes those relationships are fraught. Sometimes there's conflict. Sometimes our jobs require conflict. And, you know, you're a grown-up. You've been serving in Congress for a long time. A certain amount of that is expected. But what I read in that letter was that there was something else happening.
So you have to compartmentalize if you hope to get anything done at any other time. You simply do not have a choice. After all, we live in a highly pluralistic society. To some degree, members of Congress are the mediators amongst all those competing interests and points of view, and we have to figure out a way to work together on occasion. But the truth of the matter is, when I observe some of my colleagues across the aisle, many of whom I still consider good friends, Chris, I've come to the inevitable but sad conclusion that they are either incredibly self-deluded or in denial, or in abject fear of what the president will do to them, because he has a demonstrated record of viciously attacking those that do not support him fully, or they're just completely cynical. And if it's any one or combination of those, it's very difficult. But Chris, when you look at the numbers for the last 2 years, both this cycle and last cycle, the number of Republicans who have voluntarily retired, not running for higher office, it's a multiple of Democrats.
Yeah.
And the other conclusion I have come to is, while not saying it out loud or in public, I don't think many of them can take it anymore either.
You know, I've thought about that, too, because you've got some retirements that look like folks who are just looking at their polling and are going to have a really tough race and who wants to raise the money and who wants to go through it. But some, you had Representative Graves today in Georgia, who's a sort of up-and-coming star in the party, has no real reason. It's a safe seat. There's been a bunch like that as well. I mean, you think that, like, what you call soul weary is actually something, there's ironically some bipartisan soul weariness to be serving in this office at this time with this president.
Oh, inarguably, Chris. There's no doubt about it. I think, frankly, there have been more than a handful of very good people on the other side of the aisle who have left voluntarily in the last 2 cycles, counting this one, because while they were not able to or willing to speak up about it, it is what they felt in their heart. Take, for example, a continuing contributor on MSNBC, Carlos Corbello from Florida, who was defeated. Yeah. And he's pretty explicit in his criticism now that he has been liberated from the prospects of electoral punishment by a vindictive president. And I think he says what a lot of Republicans who have departed voluntarily are thinking and feeling.
How many terms have you served in the United States House of Representatives?
This is my 4th, but let's put it in context, Chris. I was first elected to the State House of Representatives in 1976, 43 years ago. And I've been out of public service more than in it, but I have been in and out of it my entire adult life. So this is actually the end of a very long journey of the privilege to engage in public service.
Congressman, it's really refreshing to hear someone speak this honestly about this, because people, and I understand why, they have these sort of euphemistic traditions about retirement. It's been the honor of my life, yada, yada. But it sometimes seems like we're watching something very hard to watch go on with the country and the country's politics and its political culture. And it's strangely gratifying to hear that the people who are closest to it maybe feel that way as well.
Yeah, I don't want to be melodramatic, Chris, but one of the expressions I've heard an awful lot, in fact, I've heard it too much over the last couple of 3 years when some of these behaviors have been manifest, is we're better than this. Yeah. Well, you know what, Chris? I'm going to be a little ominous. Whether or not we're better than this remains to be seen. It's up to us to decide whether we're better than this. Change does not, as Dr. Martin Luther King suggested, roll in on the wheels of inevitability. If we want to be better than this, it is time to step up.
All right, Congressman Denny Heck, thank you so much for taking the time tonight. I really appreciate it. Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.